People worried about the future, like can it be like a Terminator or something, or Skynet? That's a real concern, but it turns out that we have much more pressing real life problems happening right now because of the power of AI.
What inspired you to create Siri?
Well, I was one of three founders of Siri, Doug Kitlaus and Adam Chire, the other two founders, and there was a team of 24 people, so I wasn't the only person involved. But when we first decided to make the company in late 2007, we were inspired by something that was already well known to the Silicon Valley since 1987. It was called the Knowledge Navigator video. It was a vision video that Apple put out, showing a virtual assistant on what looked like a little iPad. And it looked like it was doing Siri-like things on an internet, on a web-like internet, which hadn't been invented yet. The web hadn't been invented yet. So it had mobile computing, it had Siri, it had the web, all in that vision video. And that had a lot of effect on a lot of people. So the core idea of having a virtual assistant as a user interface was out there in the culture. Everyone knew about it. What really got us going in 2007, early 2008, was the timing. So basically, I was an AI guy as a career, and Adam was come from SRI, this place that was known for amazing technology and demos for years and years. And Doug came from the mobile business, the mobile industry. And he had in his hand iPhone 1. And Adam had been building an assistant as part of a DARPA project for years. So he kind of knew what it meant to make an assistant that could do things for you. And I knew what it meant to have AI in the user experience. So we basically said, wow, this is the time. This is the time. Because now the pieces are coming together. We have what we need to actually pull off this vision for the first time in history.
Are there ethical risks to AI and big data? And if so, what are they and how should businesses combat them?
There's huge ethical issues in AI. I mean, AI is probably the most powerful technology that's been invented this century. Sundar, the CEO of Google, calls it the most important invention since fire. The invention of fire. Okay, and he has invested more than any other company in the world in AI, so they know what they're talking about. It's very powerful, and all powerful technologies have ethical consequences. So in the case of AI today, there's people worried about the future, like can it be like a Terminator or something, or Skynet? That's a real concern, but it turns out that we have much more pressing real life problems happening right now because of the power of AI. And the most outstanding one is the fact that AI is actually the engine of optimization behind the big social media platforms like Facebook and YouTube and Snapchat and so on. And they've optimized for what's called growth hacking, which is, how much can you get people to stay addicted and stay online? And they use the big data that they gather from their users, and they use the big AI that they analyzes that data to predict what would work to keep them online and addicted. So basically, humans don't have a chance against that kind of technology. And there's nothing like, it's not an issue of free speech or laissez-faire economics. This is a technology that is having impact at human scale, political scale, geopolitical scale. Lives are being lost and so on because of misinformation. This is a serious business in the real world. So this is a case where it's not just talk by philosophers about ethics. This is where the use of AI is changing the world in front of us. And we're going to see other examples in healthcare, where we're going to see the potential of AI to transform the way we take care of ourselves and each other. And we want it to make sure that it actually is equally distributed. Because you can very easily imagine a kind of a dark mirror world where only some people get it and everyone else is suffering. So these ethical issues matter a lot. And so basically, the second part of your question is, how can businesses address this? Well, ethics, especially in technology ethics, is not a simple matter of like, do the right thing, make it, have morals, whatever. Of course, everyone can say, here's our guiding morality, here's the values we care about, we should not kill people, et cetera, et cetera. The interesting part is, how do you, in fact, embed values, ethical values, in the very technology and processes that you employ? And So an example of not doing that is if you make the AI only care about winning in a game, an adversarial game against humans for their attention, well, that's going to produce this negative human impact. If, on the other hand, you make in the actual AI equation for what it's optimizing for, we call that the objective function. If we put in the objective function the values we want people to have, to not be addicted, to not be in a trance, to not be angry and hate speech toward each other, to not believe, go down rabbit holes and believe misinformation that's been thrown at them. So these are not as easy to measure as time on task or clicks, but they can be evaluated. And so once we realize that they can be evaluated, businesses can then adopt objective functions, these optimization functions, that have this sort of double bottom line effect. We want to make sure the business is making money, and we want to make sure that the human society is benefiting as well. And you can literally engineer those two bottom lines into your equations.
What do you credit to Siri's industry-defining success?
Well, Siri's success is really due to a lot of things. It was a good team at the right time. We knew how to build it. We knew what needed to be done. Also, it was a fairly clear vision. As startups go and as projects go, the idea of a virtual assistant as a new kind of human-computer interaction modality, is a very good vision, because it tells you what you need to design. It helps you answer questions like, well, what do we do about, say, ordering pizza or getting a hotel? Well, what would an assistant do? You keep asking yourself that. Or what kind of tone should this conversational agent have with people who are being abusive to it? Well, what would a professional assistant do? So the vision was so clear that we had a lot of the answers to our design questions. We could just imagine what it would be like. And then we had a really, I'd say, good team and good timing. And the final thing was, it was only successful to the scale it was because Apple bought it, because Steve Jobs gave us an offer and bought the company. That we chose to work with Steve because we believed in that vision of what that Apple had, which is essentially it's human customer first and sort of economic success second. So we optimized entirely for what would make a delightful, way of interacting with a little mobile phone. And that aligned everybody in the project and all to the same North Star. And that kind of thing doesn't happen often in the history of tech. And when it does, a lot of big things can happen. I think that's partly why Siri was successful.
What are the guiding principles of humanistic AI?
Yeah, humanistic AI is kind of a philosophy of AI, and there's kind of two of them. One of them, when you hear a lot of machine intelligence as the goal, oftentimes the idea there is, let's do whatever it takes to make the machine exhibit the intelligence, to automate the thing that we respect about humans, our intelligence. Let's build machine versions of those, and that's a perfectly good thing to do. And then the other way of thinking about it is, well, humanistic AI is like, why don't we make machines that make humans more intelligent? And the difference actually matters. Because if you pursue the goal of machine intelligence for its own sake, particularly in business, what you end up with is machine intelligence that often competes with humans.